Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball Podcast, episode 67. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaren Will each and every week, and we are going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana, because in 49 states,
it's just basketball.
Are we gonna talk about it? Are we gonna address the elephant in the room?
That I'm wearing a youth large shirt.
A youth large official jersey.
Yeah. No, it's a large.
You
We've established that. Coach Sprue established that. I'm between an extra large and a double XL, and most things that I wear. I like to wear baggier clothes, so I'm more of a 2X guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling to breathe right now.
Like an already tighter fit jersey.
Yeah.
That is then 2 sizes down from what you do like to wear.
I'm glad that I'm sitting down because it makes it look like it's not as tight on me.
Yeah, you got to see it in person. Not a wrinkle to be found.
I will not stand up. Actually, should I reveal? Should I do the reveal?
You won't.
All right.
You've never stood up on camera while we've been live before. It doesn't look that bad. It's form fitting. Honestly, dare I say, that's just how they're worn these days. If you went to the gear room, they're giving you that size. They're telling you this way someone can't pull your jersey. They'll have to pull skin, dude.
Yeah, you sure can't. But again, so we know the trend, right? Every week I have worn a different. I've gone in alphabetical order, right, of the schools that we talk about, starting at Ball State episode 1. Now to week 10, wearing Southern Indiana, which means next week will be Valpo. Then I'll go into week 12, and then week 13. But this is the only Southern Indiana gear that I have presently.
We haven't made our trip down there yet, so we haven't picked anything up.
We'll go next weekend. It's unfortunate that
it was a week off.
Literally a week off, because our episode next Sunday.
It would have been 2 weeks off had I not been dead to rights that 1 week, though.
That's true. I forgot. We did skip a week. But maybe week 14, I'll roll out the actual Southern Indiana gear.
That you get in the size that you like.
Yeah, and because we will buried the lead a little bit there too. We'll be in Evansville next weekend, catching a doubleheader. Check out the Aces in the first game of the doubleheader, and then we will drive 17 minutes. I think is the distance on the GPS. It's either 17 or 21. I don't know why those two numbers are the ones that stick in my head, but they do. We'll take the road trip from the Ford Center to I'm gonna still call it Screaming Eagle Arena.
Yeah,
but I believe it's Liberty Arena.
Liberty Arena.
So,
which is very fitting of of like an eagle mascot.
Freedom. Yeah. So we will be down there next Saturday. So if you are in Evansville, going to either of those games, let us know, and we will be around.
That's got to be the closest distance between two. Oh. I mean, Hinkle to
the jungle.
Hinkle to at
the Coliseum.
The Coliseum is to the fairgrounds is 9 minutes.
That makes sense. They are relatively close.
I don't know what it would be
for the jungle.
Yeah, I don't know what
probably
the official jungle is called. I assume it's just right on campus. We've never been to their bookstore. Hinkle to their bookstore is 13 minutes. So
it might be close.
I mean, if you're talking about the fairgrounds, is closer.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But yes, we will be down there next Saturday. That is the 18th. So let us know. Hit the DMs for.
If you're going to be in Evansville, we'd like to say hi.
Yeah.
We live far away. Almost as far away as you can live in Indiana, other than Angola.
Shoot, other than South Bend, I guess.
I guess it's probably a longer travel, because you can't just take 60. We can just take 69 until we get there.
True.
I guess we take 465 for a hot second, but like,
Right.
it's essentially just 69 all the way. But yeah, probably miles wise, because that's the longest corner of the state.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll be down there, so we're gonna, we'll be there for the day and the night, and so checking it out, seeing what Evansville is all about, seeing what Southern Indiana is all about. So if you're there, come say hi.
Yeah.
We'll put it out on the socials too. So you want to get into these power rankings, Jaren? They changed.
They did.
Spoilers.
Change. You ruined my thunder.
Spoilers.
Ruined my thunder.
I'm kind of like the lightning, and then you're the like they changed, and then you tell me how they changed by thundering.
That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. What's also good though, Rose Nest Coffee Roasters coffee, and you can enjoy it by using promo code 15%.
Use promo code 15% off. It will give us no benefits. Probably you either.
You can enjoy it by getting 15% off every order using promo code TSOB. Alluded to it last week, working on getting the discount set up for subscriptions. So if you are
if you like the coffee and
want to add it to your monthly or weekly rotation,
it'll save you money, like more money than just buying like 2 bags, monthly or whatever. So look into that. We'll let you know. It's just, their people have to talk to our people. Our person's unpaid, so there's a delay there. You can't rely on this intern for anything. I mean, they haven't put a single graphic out in weeks. We'll pay them someday, and they will put another graphic out, I promise. But use promo code TSOB. So Jaren, tell us who's where on the Rose Nest Coffee Roasters power rankings. Let her rip.
Rose Nest Coffee Roasters State of Basketball power rankings.
State of Basketball power rankings presented by Crow's Nest Coffee Roasters.
There we go. We'll get it right eventually. At number 11, unfortunately, there's always has to be a team in last.
Mm-hmm.
Always has to be a team in last. It sucks. I think we hate it the most every week trying to figure out, because we don't want to put anyone last.
Yeah.
We want to put everyone at 1. We want it to be an 11-way tie for first.
Hear me out. Maryland Eastern Shore, 12th every week.
There we go. Okay.
All right. There we go. We figured it out.
But at 11 is Southern Indiana. They are playing. They've played some tough basketball lately.
Mm-hmm.
They've dropped a few games lately. All been close for the most part. And the way it fell was Southern Indiana going into 11th from 10th last week. At 10 is IU Indy, moving up 1 spot. They got a huge win this week,
literally,
and so that helped propel them up that 1 spot. Evansville stayed at 9. They just kind of chilling. They're just chilling down there.
They're looking up, but
yep, things are trending positively.
Yeah. Look at the whole resume.
Got to look at the full resume. And part of that resume is a pretty big loss to Ball State, who is at 8th, directly above them. Ball State also has picked up quite a few, or a handful, I'll say, of major conference wins in the MAC. So that's helping them hold strong at 8. And at 7 is Indiana State. Last week they were at 6, but they lost to the team that is now in 6th, Valpo, who was previously at 7th. So, we went back and forth last week. Prior to last week, we did think Indiana State was the better team overall than Valpo. There just wasn't enough to show us that Valpo was better than them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But they played a head-to-head. And the head-to-head we've established is always going to carry and sway our opinions on the rankings. So
at least when they're so recent.
Yeah, at least, there's definitely the recency bias between the head-to-heads. So Valpo is at 6. At 5 is Butler, dropping down 2 spots. They're just in the middle of a very growing losing skid that is continuing.
Brother, I hope they are at the end.
Yeah,
of this thing.
It has been snowballing, and we're hoping that it'll be a snowman. And
that almost sounds worse though, because like they're
But
snowballing
it's
and
the
then
completion. It's the completion of the snowball.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's probably an analogy that's better than what I am saying. But Butler is at 5th. Notre Dame is at 4th. They're hanging out,
rocking the 4 spot most of the time.
They're content there for now. Moving up to 3 from 5 is Purdue Fort Wayne. Again, they are a team that is trending very, very positively towards making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So things are looking good for the Dons.
They might be our only hope for a second team in the tournament from the state. Do we have we have a lock, we have a team we think probably, and then we have a maybe.
Yeah.
That's all we have right now.
Yeah. At 2 is still Indiana. Picked up a big win against USC. Picked up a big loss against Iowa.
Big transitive win with USC.
Yeah. So they're holding strong at 2. We still think that, on each of their team's best days, that Indiana would be better than Purdue Fort Wayne.
And also, I mean, it's the way they lost is terrible, and that made us really consider dropping them lower. But like, they still have a few decent wins,
impressive wins. Yeah. And then at number 1, holding strong, Purdue.
They will run the table.
Except
they didn't. They started out. I don't even know how many weeks at 2.
I think 1 week.
1 or 2. I think it was 1 or 2. They will not lose. I will go on record and say they will not lose the number 1 spot.
More than likely.
Even based on what will happen by the time they play, I think even if Indiana wins
both,
I still think
we'll see. We'll see. That's the only reason that Purdue might drop out of one
unless they lose a bunch of games and Indiana just goes on a tear and like beats Michigan State and Illinois and Purdue and everyone in the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Yep. But those are our Week 10 power rankings presented by Crow's Nest Coffee.
Beautiful. Let's talk about our power rankings. Let's go through at a nice leisurely pace, like 20 minutes per team. We'll be here till midnight or so. But let's talk about Ball State. They went up significantly this week in Torvik. They were at 221 last week, and they're up at 208th now, so they're almost cracking the top 200. They went 1-1 this week, 8-7 overall, 2-1 in the MAC. They started out the week with a loss at home to Miami of Ohio, 80-72. And then they beat a team that's definitely in Kentucky, Bowling Green State. They beat them 91-69, so a huge win. That's definitely one of the things that propelled their Torvik ranking up so far is just the margin of victory there, because I don't remember what the spread was on that game, but they exceeded it way higher than any computer would have expected them to. So
I'll bring up that reminder of the spread.
Yeah, a good week for them. I mean, obviously you don't want to drop one at home, but getting that huge win over Bowling Green, like Miami of Ohio is a good team in the MAC.
It was 6.
They were favored by 6.
Favored by 6.
Okay.
Yes.
And then they win,
by 22.
By 20. So, I mean, what do you have on these games, Jaren? Let's not spend too long on the nitty gritty. I mean, they got 1 win, 1 loss. That's the bare bones of what they need to know.
Yeah. I mean, Peyton Sparks, big game against Miami. He's really becoming himself again for the Cardinals. He tied his career best in rebounds, which I believe he had 16. That's the second time in 3 games he's hit that mark. So rebounding the heck out of the ball in the Bowling Green game. I almost said Bowling State. The Bowling Green game was actually their first time since November 19th, 2022, where Ball State had 6 scorers in double digits. Thought that was pretty notable. It's been 3 years now since they last did it, which is impressive.
Yeah,
impressive. They're scoring happening from several people. I wanted to shout out our guy Jerry, though, too. Jeremiah Hernandez. He started the season Pretty rough, right? I think
Yeah.
over the first 9 games, he was averaging 5.6 points per game and 17.7 minutes per game.
Mm-hmm.
The last 6 games, though, he's averaging 12 points per game and 30.5 minutes per game. So scoring has doubled, and his minutes have dang near doubled. So he's becoming the Jerry that we know and love, that we saw a lot last year.
Adapting to that new role for sure.
And we're optimistic we would see this year. It just took some games for him to get warmed up.
Yeah, I mean, tougher competition, different coach, different defense, everything.
Dare I say he was sandbagging ahead of the Kent State game so that Kent State didn't have him high on their scout.
They were like, hey, he'll be all right. He won't do much. It was all they knew it didn't matter what they did in the non-con. They just need to win the MAC.
Yeah.
Their only way in.
Yeah.
It's genius. They kind of they let Miami shoot 50% from the floor. So that's one thing that's not going to win you that game. And then they cut it to 1 late, but then early in the second half, but then most of the second half, it was 4 or more point lead by Miami of Ohio. So don't want to drop that one, but good performance in Bowling Green. 6 guys had double digits and shot really well. So 50, almost 60%. So that's what we like to see. Defense is locking in. I just like where Ball State's going. I was thinking maybe it was before the Evansville win, there was a lot of question marks, and now it seems like the things are clicking. So
yeah, for sure. I think the Cardinals are starting to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, man.
Team that is not is Butler. They dropped from 72 to 82 in Torvik. They did go 0-2 this week. I don't like saying that every week. The last 4 weeks, we've said they went 0-2 or 0-1 or lost other games in general. They are 7-10 overall and currently 0-6 in the Big East. They lost at Providence 84-65. They lost against Creighton 80-76. I thought they were going to pull it off against Creighton.
Dude,
I thought it was theirs.
I thought it was too. I mean, I think that this has got to be the most surprising team for me, and not in the way I want it to be, because there are a lot of teams Valpo has surprised me. I'm pleasantly surprised with what I've seen from Valpo this year.
Yep.
Ball State, I was a little bit, disappointed early on. Evansville, they've at least fluctuated. Butler, showed a lot of promise, and then I don't know what, something just gave out, and they just already had trouble rebounding the ball. Now they just can't rebound the ball. Now they have dropped 9 straight, and this is a team that beat Mississippi State, who's top 15.
Yeah,
by 10, I think, and beat Northwestern. It just doesn't add up. Something is
the math
not right.
Isn't mathing.
That's so true.
Yeah, I mean they had a big 11-point win against SMU. They had a 10-point win against Mississippi State. 2-point win against Northwestern. 3 good teams, and then yes, they did have to play Houston and Wisconsin and Marquette and UConn, and really, I mean the Big East is tough, but they beat 3 tough teams already. So how is this any different? I don't know what's going on.
And I think part of it is losing this many games in the Big East 6 is horrible for where we thought that they would be, and just bad in general. The only other team that has lost all 6 of their games is DePaul, who did not win a single game last year. They have a new coach. They're gonna win one. But now we're looking at who's gonna win a game first, Butler or DePaul. And that's not the conversation you want to be in.
Right. And the thing that worries me is okay, I texted you earlier this week, I think before they even played Providence, and it was just at minimum, we need Butler to beat Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm worried because Butler just lost by 19 to Providence. Seton Hall almost beat Providence.
Yeah.
and Seton Hall is probably the worst team in the conference. Other than DePaul isn't great, but I think metrics wise, Seton Hall is worse because DePaul is not the DePaul of last year. But they still have 4 games on their schedule. They've got 2 against Seton Hall, 2 against DePaul, who are the 2 worst teams in the Big East. But it worries me because Seton Hall was playing good basketball against Providence, who just
and you should have beaten Creighton at home. Like you were close, and you should not have you should have been competing with Providence at Providence. You should not have gotten blown out there.
Yeah, I will say in the Providence game, shout out Andre Screen, scored his 1,000th career point. So that's, I guess, a positive component. And in the Creighton game, I love those jerseys.
Oh yeah, the IMS,
the IMS
collab
where they've got the racing, the checker stripe down the side, the checker striped Hinkle sections. You wore white or blue depending on the section that you were in. I mean, at least they looked sick.
We might get beat, but we'll look sweet type beat.
That is my notes from that game. Really.
Yeah. I will say that it is worth mentioning that Telford is having a back injury and that's nagging him, but that doesn't excuse a lot of the effort things, and losing 9 in a row. So let's move on for a team that has shown some more promise recently. Evansville, I'll just tell you what their numbers were. They went up from 294 to 272. They went 1-1 this week, 6-11 overall, and 3-3 in the Missouri Valley. They won at home over Illinois State. Was that at home, right?
Yes.
And then they beat Illinois State 69-51, and then they lost to Drake. They lost to Drake 63-40. I
want to do something new, Adam.
Okay.
We've established over the last 1.5 seasons so far that we've got the Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week. Modeled after or named after Jimmy Chitwood from the Hoosiers. Player that said, "I'll make it." Makes the game winner. I want to start doing a Hickory Team of the Week. So Jimmy Chitwood played for the Hickory Huskers. He himself did great, but also the team, they won it all. They won the championship.
They were underdogs.
They were going against a team that was bigger, better.
Yeah.
They were the underdogs. They overcame it. Obviously, Jimmy Chitwood hit the shot, but it was a whole team effort. And my first Hickory Team of the Week is the Evansville Aces. Yes, they lost the game, right? They lost to Drake, but Illinois State, they were 8-point underdogs going into that game. 6 of the 8 players from Evansville that checked into the game all had points. 4 of them were in double digits. They had 30 rebounds as a team, 15 assists as a team. Everyone played their role and helped the Aces take that 8-point underdog and turn it into a 18-point win. So they completely just flipped the script there, and that's why I think that they're the first, the inaugural.
Yeah, I guess so. 10 weeks
inaugural,
in.
10 weeks in, inaugural Hickory Team of the Week.
Shout out to Evansville, man. I mean, they have seen some lows this season, but they have pulled out a lot of positives, and that defense is going to hold. And shouts to them for pulling one out that is a little bit surprising according to the statistics and the numbers of it all. Tayshawn Comer has been a great scorer for them with Pizzato being out. I mean, he's just been the guy. He's been the guy who can get you a bucket at any point. And then they held Illinois State to their lowest fewest points, I guess. 13 points lower than their fewest, their
previous fewest.
Yeah. So shout out to that. I mean, the defense has been great. I mean, they're the best, right? I think they're statistically the best defense in the Valley. I don't know after the Drake.
In conference only games, yes. Yeah. In conference only games, Evansville is the number 1 defense in the conference. and Illinois State, I believe, is presently 2, but I think going into the game, they were 1.
Yeah.
And Ragland even acknowledged it in the post game. He said, "We're the best defensive team in the league, facing the best offensive team in the league. Something had to give." Defense.
I feel like
offense gave.
I feel like it. I mean, I don't know what the only example that I can think of is when Gonzaga and Baylor played, and Gonzaga had the best offense, Baylor had the best defense in the national championship, and Baylor just smoked them. That's the only thing that I can think of. But I feel like I would rather have the best defense.
Yeah.
Usually, but
yeah.
The Drake game, like I felt really good going in halftime. Like 2 really, really defensive teams. It was 25-20. And I was like, awesome, this is awesome. Like they're gonna do this. Like was getting ready to see the second half, and then it took them 11 minutes in the second half to get their first bucket. There was a 19-1 run in 11 minutes in the second half, where Evansville was 0 of 6 and had 6 turnovers. That brought they were like down 23, and then they hit their first bucket, and that brought the deficit to 20.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall, when you look at metrics, right, the defense was outstanding against Illinois State. Took a slight step back against Drake. I think Drake is a better offensive team than people give them credit for sometimes. Because I mean, they're very defensive heavy. But Evansville's offense just, they couldn't buy a basket. It felt like most.
I have this
game
written down somewhere, I think. No, did I not write it down? Crap, I'm gonna pull it up. Evansville's, have you looked at their metrics? Their adjusted defense is 100. The 100th best team on defense. Offense, they're 349th. They are literally the, I guess, 11th worst offensive rebounding team in the country. They are 67th in 3-point rate, and they're 345th in 3-point percentages. So they need to be taking their looks. Just take your looks from elsewhere. Get the ball inside. Take your looks. Take your looks from somewhere else.
Yeah, because they're top 200 in 2-point percentage, and bottom 20 in 3-point percentage.
Yeah,
just attack the glass.
Yeah,
shoot long twos.
Just change the metrics a little bit. Let's talk about Indiana, because they had an up and down week. They went down in Torvik by 1 from 51 to 52. They went 1-1 this week, 13-4 overall, and then that brings them to 4-2 in the Big Ten. They started out the week with an 82-69 win at home over USC, and like that was positive. Like they controlled it pretty much the whole time. There was a minute in there where they didn't, but then they had to play Iowa at Iowa, and Fran McCaffrey just owns Mike Woodson. And like even when Indiana almost beat them in the Big Ten tournament, they still couldn't do it. And I don't think he's ever beaten them. I don't think Mike Woodson's ever beaten Iowa.
I feel like they did.
I'll pull it up.
Okay. The USC game, I was very pleased. The team came out, played well. They played fast. They were moving the ball, doing their thing. They were playing without Renew. Did not have an impact against USC. In the last 5 games, really have just been looking great for Indiana. That USC game included, and we're like, okay, they turned a new leaf. We're gonna go in and we're gonna play Iowa. We're gonna beat them. We're gonna beat them close. It's gonna be close because it's Iowa. Iowa scores about 120 points per game. That is a gross overestimation, but Iowa can score the ball.
Feels like it.
Yeah. So I was very pleased against USC. I was not very pleased against Iowa. By far, Indiana's worst defensive performance of the season. It's also their second worst offensive performance of the season. Their first worst, I guess, was against Louisville. So throw back to Atlantis. I thought that they were missing Malik in this game.
Yeah,
I think that
because the game in the Iowa game, like they started out terrible and then they surged back because Miles Rice was great, and then Iowa went zone and IU's offense just completely disappeared.
Yep.
And turned the ball over way too much early. Just could not do anything. And I have it here actually. The last time that they beat Iowa was on February 7th, 2020. 2021. Archie Miller's last year when they went 12-15.
Okay, so Woodson has never beat.
No.
Okay.
Like, unless I missed it. So, yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't even like. I guess like playing away from home, they're terrible. Like they're just terrible.
Yeah.
The only they won once on the road at Penn State, which was which when watching the Penn State game today, they're trying to stay perfect at home, and I was like, no, they lost. And I was like, that game was at the Palestra.
Yeah, I remember Connor Onion was talking about it. They're 9-0 at home. Yeah. And in my head, I was like,
they lost, which is funny because they have not lost in their home venue, but they do have a home loss.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm wanting to wait a week to really dive into Indiana because there's an issue, and I think we should discuss it next week. I just don't want to dive into it right now. I just don't want to dive into it right now. I don't think that it's deserved, basically. But I think it's worth noting that they're only favored in 3 of their 14 remaining games. Home to Penn State, at Washington, the worst team in the Big Ten probably, and at home to Ohio State. The only games that they're favored. So
they did beat Iowa last year.
They did?
Yeah, at home. 74-68.
One time. See, I just assumed they took a loss last year and just moved on. Didn't even look at it. All right, let's talk about Indiana State. They had a bit of a rough week for the Trees fans. They went from 191 to 204, so they went down in Torvik. Then 0-2 this week. That brings them to 9-8 overall and 3-3 in the Missouri Valley. Their first game of the week was against Valparaiso. That's an in-state matchup. I was so close to pulling the trigger on going to this game.
I kept checking your location because you and I we didn't talk much. Wednesday because we were together for several hours on Tuesday, and I kept checking your location as it got closer and closer to game time.
I was about to go. I could have gone. I should have gone, but they lost at Valpo 98-95 in overtime, and then they lost at home to Belmont 84-79. Both games that I think this is their three most recent losses have all been games that they could have had in the final couple possessions and just got away from them in the end.
Their last four games have been decided by 5 points or less, and 2 of them were overtime losses.
Just sucks, dude. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I said it first.
I was just going to talk about the Valpo game. Their defense held Valpo to 33% shooting in the second half, compared to the 53.6% in the first half. So the defense definitely showed up and kind of locked Valpo down. It just wasn't quite enough. Which I think Valpo was favored. We'll talk a little bit about what Valpo did to beat them when we talk about Valpo in a few minutes. But just wanted to note that Samaj Teal has now led Indiana State in scoring 8 times and in assists 8 times. It's also the 8th time he has finished with 20 plus points this season. I believe he had 20 on the dot against Valpo.
I think so.
So pretty exciting stuff there going on for Teal. And we've talked about him all season.
Yeah.
But he's their guy, except the last few weeks, Jaden Daughtry
needs to be starting.
Needs to be starting, right? I was looking at something. I was talking about the starters or starting minutes and bench points. Why is their bench scoring? I think their bench scored half their points against Belmont.
All him.
And they were all Daughtry. Finished.
If he doesn't, I don't know what the reason that Graves has Marcus Harding starting over him. But if he continues to come off the bench, he will win 6th man of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yeah.
Like there's no question there.
Yeah, I mean he finished 10 for 11 from the field against Belmont. The rest of the team shot 17 for 52.
And the only one he missed was blocked.
Yeah. He's got 5 straight games with at least 16 points. At least 16. But in those 5 games, he's averaging 21.8 points per game. With just over 22 minutes per game.
Yeah.
So play him 40 minutes. We'll put up 40 for you.
That is what the 40
numbers
says.
That is what the numbers are telling me.
It is.
Not a math guy, but things do kind of add up sometimes.
I do want to mention the officiating, because the officiating was just like, it just took all the gas out of this game. It was just like
against Belmont?
No, against Valpo, because there were 74 combined free throws. It was disgusting.
That's a lot.
Especially given how both teams play.
Yeah.
You watch these teams and you tell me that they should play each other and put up 74 free throws. Not a chance in the world. But I mean, refs aside, we got an overtime game that was close, almost tipped to buzzer. That's a win in my book. And, the home team winning is always exciting, because then it's kind of like what the expected result was. But the Belmont game, I mean, just another heartbreaker, man. I mean, like a 12-0 run late to catch up, but just couldn't catch up in the end. But just stinks, man. Just stinks because, like,
it do be stinky.
I'm still so positive. Like, they're close. They haven't given up, clearly.
No.
They just need to get over that hump, and win these close ones. They've done it. It's just, you might look back on the season and be like, we could have been 13-7, but we're 10-10 or whatever based on these close ones.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a non-close one, let's talk about IU Indy, Jaren. They went up 330 to 307. 1-0 this week. They're our only team that played one game, I think.
Are we gonna see a top 300
Absolutely
IU Indy team?
Absolutely. They'll be top 300 when they play at home against DFW.
On it?
Yeah, book it.
Okay. Isn't that like next week?
2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks. That's the week after the weekend we're at Evansville. So they are 6-12 overall now. Is that their win total from last year? 6? Or did they get to 8?
Think they got to. I'll find out.
Okay, and they're 2-5, which sounds, I think, has to be more than they won in the conference last year. But Jaren will check that. They're 2-5 in the Horizon League, and their win was a 95-61 win over Detroit Mercy.
So they were 6-26 last year. 2-18.
Dude, literally one more win. One more win is all it takes.
Yeah,
they will get more than one win. They should be like 5-2 in the conference. But
yep.
What do you make of this win?
Definitely wasn't as close as the final score tells you, which is wild.
Yeah, that's insane to say.
They were up like 40 at one point. Just absolutely balling. They had 6 of 7 guys that played in double digits. And
they literally played without 2 starters and their best, like their most prolific scorer.
Yeah.
Best shooter. Like, they won by almost 40.
Yeah. Melinder did score his 1,000th career point. So I'm pretty sure that's 3 straight weeks of Jags players hitting the 1,000 career mark. I think Zelenskis did it 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Who did it last week? Jarvis Walker?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think it was Jarvis Walker last week.
That's what, and 2 people this week for just the state, right? Or did we see
3? We saw 3 this week.
Okay.
Of guys hitting the 1,000th career mark.
Crazy. It's a lot of points, man. Yeah, we did see 3. We just haven't talked about the 3rd one yet.
Yep. I do wanna bring up the Keenan Garner technical foul on the dunk.
What? What did you say?
I just wanted to see your reaction. That's all. All I wanted was just to say those words and see the way you looked at me. But Keenan Garner did get a technical foul on a dunk.
It's the stupidest foul.
Wasn't even hanging on the rim, really. He just smacked the backboard as he let go of the rim.
Yeah.
And got teed up. I said that I wonder if he's going to be running just because I know Corsaro, but I think even Corsaro agreed that it was a dumb foul.
It's stupid. And I think that they only called it
because
of the deficit, because of the deficit. But I don't know, shouldn't reffing be a consistent thing regardless of the score?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what I think, saying you can't call that here is if it's the rule, you should call it, but that rule specifically should be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Should be gone. Just great. I just was watching it, and the whole time I was like, this is happening. This is happening. This was during it overlapped with the college football playoff. Yeah, and I was like,
oh, I had I was sitting at my desk, and I've got 3 monitors. Got my main one. I forget what I was doing. My side monitor. I had the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
It was Notre Dame playing. Wasn't listening to it.
Of course.
I was just had it up so I could peep over at the score every now and again.
The basketball show,
Yeah, and then I had my top monitor had the IU Indy game on, audio on, everything, listening, locked in. Up. It was great.
So great week, and they snapped there. I actually did not look at the number. I will pull it up right now. They snapped a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game losing streak.
Yep.
So
because they were 7 at the same time Butler was 7, and Butler lost. Lost twice
and they only played 1.
Yep.
Within there you've got a 6-point loss, 7-point loss, a 6-point loss, a 2-point loss, another 2-point loss. So you've got promise in this team. You've got fight, and they never give up, even when they're up 40.
Team that also has fight in them. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yo.
They moved up 7 spots in Torvik. They're 85 from 92 last week. And that is with 2 losses this week. They went 0-2, bringing their overall record to 7-9, and they are 1-4 in the ACC. They lost at NC State 66-65, and then they lost at Duke 86-78. NC State game ended with a potential Marcus Burton game winner.
There's so many of those, and
he missed. I think he pulled up from mid range instead of just, or no,
he was close, right?
Yeah, they
all blurred together.
Yeah, but how it worked, and I was like when I was watching it, the play-by-play guy thought it was odd. Drews called a timeout after right before the final inbound, and they were like, no, they should just give the ball to Burton, let him run it up the court, let him see everything that's happening, let him find his path, get to the rim, make the basket. But they called a timeout, but then I think check it in at half court.
Yeah.
So I think they inbounded it, got across, called timeout instead of just letting Marcus cook. And it led to there was some hesitations. Marcus didn't quite, see the path that he needed.
Yeah.
Ended up needing to take a shot because of the buzzer and ended up missing, which was unfortunate. I thought they could pull it off, but I was looking at the numbers, and it's crazy that the offensive and defensive efficiency for Notre Dame, when you look at the UNC game last week, it was also a 1-point loss with the potential Marcus Burton game winner. And then the NC State game, numbers damn near identical. Efficiency numbers is pretty much the same, off by not even a single a point. It was half a point off. I think it was a 3 difference in offensive efficiency, but it was just heartbreaking. And then the Duke game, they had a record broke against them.
Disgusting.
So I think that's in and of itself is telling enough to how the game went.
Dude, he's okay, so you couldn't bet on Cooper Flag. We'll just talk about the record. So the record, first of all, is he set the ACC scoring record and the Duke scoring record. Obviously, those are going to be the same. Yeah, scoring record for a freshman. 42 points. He had 7 boards, 6 assists. He went 11 of 14 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, and 16 of 18 from the free throw. So just insane. And you couldn't place bets on him to win National Player of the Year because he wasn't 18. He's now 18, so you can. And I looked at it today because like the Player of the Year race is interesting now that Janai Broom's hurt, and we don't know when he's coming back. And Cooper Flagg just did this on DraftKings. I think he's like minus 400, and Broom is like plus 150 or something. Like, I don't know. I have not looked at it before today. I don't know what it was before the injury or when he turned 18, but it's crazy. So, like, I thought about putting the money on Flag, but it was like
Janai Broom is plus 350 right now.
And what's Flag?
Minus 400.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
I
put a couple bucks on Broom just because if you put like $10 wins you like $12 on Flag.
Yeah.
It'll probably hit, but
whereas $10 wins you $4.45.
Yeah.
On Broom.
So, that's not good. Obviously, having that performance against you, being down almost 22 times in the game and fighting back, is nice to show some fight. Like they are fighting. They were just outmatched on the board basically.
Yeah. I mean, they did shoot 58% from 3. Notre Dame did against Duke, so that's pretty great. That's we talked about 40+% is you're an elite shooter as a team. They were dang near 60%, which is great. It was their worst defensive efficiency of the season, which makes sense.
You got a dude going for 40 on you.
Yeah. The crazy thing to me is you talk about Cooper Flagg's free throws, right? He was 16 of 18. He had 16 of the team's 30 free throws.
Yeah.
Half of them itself. No one else on their team had more than 7. So it was like 7-5 and a couple people with like 1 or 2 makes.
Well, how many shots is he taking? That's crazy.
Right. But it also makes sense. He had half their free throws and their points.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to happen.
Let's talk about PFW because they've been doing some good stuff.
Yes. They oddly enough went down in Torvik.
Significantly almost,
149 from 141. But they did go 2-0 this week. They're 13-6 overall, 6-2 in the Horizon League. They got the win over Milwaukee, 78-73, and they won over Detroit Mercy, 90-67. Detroit Mercy, tough week. Tough week for them.
Especially like after the loss to IU Indy, and then they come in and they play like 30 solid minutes against PFW, and then PFW just blows their doors open the last 30. Like through the first half, I was like, I'm sweating a little more than I should be. Because like there are two ways that it's going to go when you see them lose to IU and then Detroit Mercy loses that way. It's like they are going to follow this up with an all-time terrible performance, or their next performance will be otherworldly good. And luckily we didn't get that.
It was just mid.
Yeah, it was like good, not great. Yeah. Jalen Jackson and Bello, great. I mean, Quentin Morton Robertson, great always. Those three, like the 3 guards are great every single game. Milwaukee, they beat Milwaukee by 5. Milwaukee was the other Horizon League preseason pick. They won. There was like a sequence. There was like a 10-0 run in the middle of like towards the end of the second half where it was like steal the ball. It was like PFW scores. Milwaukee brings it down. They steal the ball and then they get fouled. Then they go and make free throws. And that happened like 3 times. And their coach got so mad. He got a tech. So then there was a 4-point play with Jalen Jackson just at the free throw line, just knocking down 4 in a row. And it was great for us Dons fans. But, just playing like the team. They dropped 2 that I think they should not have lost. They should not have lost to Northern Kentucky for sure. They shouldn't have dropped their home opener, or their season opener, conference opener, I guess. But they are looking like the team to beat. I think they're like half a game back from Cleveland State right now. I don't know if Cleveland State played today. I checked that last night, but they're at least 1 half a game or tied with Cleveland
They
State.
are. Looks like technically it'd be half a game because Cleveland State is
they won game fewer.
Played.
Yeah, so they're half a game back, and that's going to make things interesting between Milwaukee, PFW, and Cleveland State.
Milwaukee's now in fourth. Youngstown State and Purdue Fort Wayne are both tied at 6-2 in the conference presently.
And you've already beat Youngstown State, so that's good.
Yep. It was wild when I looked at the box score after the game. I was just curious. Milwaukee had 9 more field goal attempts than Purdue Fort Wayne, which is crazy to think about because of the way Purdue Fort Wayne just like steals the ball all the time. You think that they'd have more? Nope. But they did have a 10 offensive rebound advantage. It was 14-4 on the offensive glass, looking at both teams.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps get more points up. And Fort Wayne had 2 second chance points to Milwaukee's 16.
Mm-hmm.
You're still able to pull the win off is what you like to see.
Yeah.
You like to see the numbers not in your favor, but the score in your favor.
Right. Right.
It's, I mean, you don't like to see the numbers not in your favor. You always want the numbers to be in your favor.
I mean,
but
the most important number favored them.
Right.
Score.
It's fun to see when
it's like, and you look at the box score, you're like, they should lose this game.
Yep.
But they didn't
score. Yep.
Mulder still out, ankle injury. Don't know when he'll be back. But Detroit Mercy was kind of in the game for as long as they were because they uncharacteristically turned Purdue Fort Wayne over quite a bit in the first half. They still finished around their average, but they're 7th in the country in turnover percentage on offense, so they just don't turn the ball over like at all. And I think that's one of my favorite things
about them
is like they know how to turn you over, and that definitely helps them in knowing how to not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And Off has got it rolling there. Talk about Purdue, Jaren.
This is major stuff going on in West Lafayette. They moved up 7 spots in Torvik. I think I made the joke last week that they were gradually like going backwards in Torvik ranking, but they're 13 up from 20. They went 2-0 this week. They're 13-4 overall, 5-1 in the Big Ten. They had a win over Rutgers, 68-50. And then a blowout over Nebraska, 104-68.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Last year, Tominaga leads them over Purdue, right?
Yep.
A couple years ago, like, hey, Purdue's #1 team in the country. First time ever Ron Harper Jr. has entered the chat. They just stomped those demons. Like, there was more than just a basketball game here, man. It was like, no. Like, we're taking all of our frustrations out on you. Dylan Harper was like still sick in the Rutgers game. He had 6, but like Ace Bailey only had 17. Braden Smith had 16 and 14. Just best guard in the league for sure. Milestone for him. 600 assists in his 91st career game. He's the second player in the NCAA history to have 1,000 points, 600 assists, and 450 rebounds in his first 3 years. The only other person to do it is DJ Cooper from Ohio's DJ Cooper from 2010 to 2012. Is the first major conference player to ever do it. And it is 14 at least games left.
Yeah.
15 at least. 16 because they're getting regular instruments. He has at least 16 games left in his career. Will have more than that.
Of his, not even of his career.
His junior season.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it last week. We missed it. But Braden hit his 1,000th career point last week, I believe last Thursday. Fletcher did it against Rutgers. So he is the 3rd player this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess not even 3rd player this week. 3rd player that we have talked about this week to hit the 1,000 career mark. Because I believe Screen and Millender did it after and then the week when I look at chronological.
Yeah.
But very great. He had 13. So he now has 1,009 career points. Well, I guess that was as of the end of the Rutgers game.
It's pretty good.
Pretty wild stat. So Purdue is 104-23 since the start of the 2021-2022 season. In that time frame, only one team has more wins in that span. That is Houston,
That makes
who
sense.
has 2 more wins in that span.
And they were in the American for some of those wins.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that didn't count.
Wild. Caleb First, he's, was on the team for all 104 of those wins. He is tied for 4th most by a senior class in Purdue history.
I guess depending on what happens next year, but like he could be the winningest Boilermaker, right? Then, because if he's 4th most right now, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Then will probably be 1st.
Yeah, I don't know what the win.
I don't know what the number 1 is.
Yeah,
that's something to keep an eye on.
But
and the Purdue website will let us know, because they have the absolute best like facts and like research on their like athletics website out of any of these schools, in my opinion.
They got another stat for you from the Nebraska game.
Go ahead.
First off, I saw at one point with 5 minutes left in the game, there were 2 7-footers on the court for Purdue, and that told me enough about how the game went. Right, like nowadays with Jacobson being injured, you don't see Burgess or Berg that often.
Right.
But when they're both out there at the same time,
then
it's like,
okay.
Feels
weird. And they were at the 1 and the 2.
Hey, I mean, it might work out for them when they have to play Michigan, and Michigan plays with 2 7-footers.
No kidding,
might be a little trial there. They were 1-3 shy of breaking a school record in a single game 3-pointers.
They also maxed out the bookstore's discount at 39%. They increased their discount per threes that they've hit, and they maxed it out at 30. They capped it at 39 was the thing. So
why 39?
I don't know. I don't know specifically why, but if you want some Purdue stuff, you can get 39% off tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow.
But so we saw Zach Edey for 2 years, right? Dominate for 2 years.
Yes.
I
saw him win some awards.
Yeah.
I saw him be tall. You know what I'm saying? He was tall. He was tall out there. Like, how are you gonna miss him? He's on the court. How are you gonna miss him?
Yeah. So think about all the wins, the dominance that he had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Purdue's won 4 straight Big Ten games by at least 18 points for the first time in school history.
Crazy.
I was like, that doesn't make sense, because Edey was just cooking.
Probably
for the last 2 years.
You probably throw in like a Rutgers or like a Nebraska or something.
Right. There was just one random game here or there that just like would break those streaks of, but that was pretty sick to see. I was like, oh wow, that shut up a lot of people, because everyone was like, oh, Purdue won't be good, they don't have Zach Edey. Well, they're doing all right.
Yeah, they have turns out Matt Painter, good coach. Good coach. Let's talk about the Screagles real quick. They went down from 339 to 341. That's 2 spots. They went 0-2 this week, unfortunately. They're 6-10 overall, and that brings them to 1-5 in the Ohio Valley. They lost at SEMO 77-66, and then they lost at Arkansas Little Rock 78-58. I just got to say, like, just a little bit disappointed in the Screagles. Just like didn't shoot well from 3 against SEMO. Just absolutely let Little Rock rock them in the second half after being tied at half and coming out and like started out cold from 3, started hitting threes in the middle of the first half, and then in the second half we're hitting threes, and just, a season for them.
Yeah, it was like an 8-point game with 5 minutes left, and Southern Indiana was down. I walked away, and by the time I came back to my computer to see the rest of the game, it was over, and they lost by 20.
Yeah,
I was like, how did that happen? They went on a 9-0 scoring drought to end the game, which didn't help. I was in the notes, right? So the game that they played on Sunday against Arkansas Little Rock was supposed to play Saturday. It got postponed due to a winter storm.
Sounds like some tampering.
Yeah. It was a women's then men's doubleheader. And I wrote in my notes, will they get the sweep? Women's went to overtime, heartbreaking loss, and then the men played. So they did not get the sweep. They got swept, unfortunately. Got outscored by 20 points in the second half. 28-28.
That is how that works.
Yeah, 28-28. But, like, that's just so...
Tale of two halves, man.
so
It was
lopsided.
like a lot of the, like Evansville Drake. They were down by 5. They get blown out in the second half. We've seen, maybe something's in the water in Evansville. We will find out if we come back and we're blown out in the second halves of our 2-on-2 games that we play every
But we play
Saturday.
against each other.
Yeah, that's true. Usually, we
every
team up.
every 2v2 we've
Looking at the other two we play 2-on-2 with,
has to be.
if we team up and get blown out, you'll never see me again. You'll never see me again. Valpo? Or do you have more on your
Well, I was just
side?
gonna say, all you need to know about this game is Little Rock almost made more shots in the second half than they took in the first half.
Yeah.
So they were 19 for 31 in the second half, 9 for 20 in the first half. That tells you what you need to know about the Little Rock game. Valpo moved down 10 spots in Torvik. They're 213 from 203. Just making room for IU Indy is really all that was. They went 1-1 this week, bringing their overall record to 10-7. They're 3-3 in the conference. They had the win over Indiana State in overtime at 98-95. Then they lost at Murray State 58-47. Against ISU, they getting that win matched their conference win total from last season.
Just crazy.
15 games remaining, so that's pretty lit.
The three-headed snake, man. All right. Cooper Schwieger, Tyler Schmidt, 25, 23, and 23, respectively. Schwieger had 8 blocks.
Indiana State game.
Yeah, Indiana State just couldn't stop them.
Schwieger had 3 blocks.
Yeah. Isn't that what I said?
You said 8 blocks. I thought
8 rebounds, 3 blocks. I was looking at 3 blocks on my thing.
Valpo, they have the regular season wins over Indiana State, Missouri State, Northern Iowa. That's the first time since they joined the Missouri Valley that they've beat all 3 of those teams in the same season.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah. It was also their highest scoring output against a Division I opponent since 2013. That was a triple overtime game back then against Mercer. So
pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like they won at the, led by those 3, and shouts to Sepp. He was getting every rebound he could possibly grab, doing an Eric Mulder impersonation. I don't think they missed in overtime. Like, that helps you win when you just don't miss. I mean, Schmidt fouled out, Sepp fouled out in overtime. They still won. They still won.
Out, not Schmidt.
Yes, right. What did I say? Schmidt?
Yeah.
Right fouled out. I'm just saying all the wrong names, But Murray State game was not great. I mean, All Right was 1 for 10. Sepp had 0. He didn't even attempt a shot. They just got out physicaled. Not a word, but that's what happened.
Well, they got outscored 18-2 at the free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
It was also the first. It's just the third time in 17 games where they shot at a lower free throw percentage than their opponent. They only made 2 free throws. I think they attempted 3,
which is crazy.
They made 32 against Indiana State.
Yeah, they took
and they're
43. They took 40 more free throws.
Yeah, they're averaging 19.1 free throw makes per game this season. Only got to the line 3 times. Schwieger also broke his streak of 23 consecutive made free throws. He had that. The one miss they had was his.
That's I don't know. That's it. I just don't want to.
Don't want to dwell.
No, it was just disappointing. But how do you go from 43 free throws in one game to 3 the next? Yeah, explain that to me.
Maybe it wasn't 3. Maybe it had to have been more than 3.
don't think that it was. I would say top 6. I'll pull it up for you right here because because I noticed that when I was looking at it and I was like, how is this even possible, dude? So they shot 3 and they made 2. Schwieger missed one in the first half and they made both of theirs in the second, which is Diavero hit 2 in the second half. They
went
7 for 24 from 3. Like, it was just.
Let's move on to more exciting and positive things. Our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week for Week 10. Who do you got for us, Adam?
First time this season we have Jimmy Chitwood from this team. It's Sean Craig from the IU Indianapolis Jaguars. His team desperately needed a win as they were in the middle of a losing streak, and he was very, very important in doing that. They had a
second time this week we've had. Sorry.
Second time?
Yep.
Who's
Jarvis
the other
Walker.
One? Jarvis Walker?
Week 5.
Now he had what? Week 5?
Week 5.
Now I got to rip it all over again. I can't have a mistake, man. Can't have a mistake.
Can't taint his success.
Man. So Jimmy Chitwood this week goes to Sean Craig from IU Indy. They desperately needed a win, and he helped them big time. He had 30. It was a 34-point win over Detroit Mercy, and they were supposed to win by like 5 or 6. So they definitely outpaced that. He only played 28 minutes, 19 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 steal. He was doing it all. He was helped out by Jarvis Walker, and he was also great. I think Jarvis Walker had 20. They did this without 2 starters. The team came out to really make a statement, and Sean Craig was one of those people who was ready to figuratively punch Detroit Mercy in the mouth. Not literally. He did not literally punch anyone.
He might have been ready to punch him though.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have swung if the occasion rose and it called for it. He would have.
Okay, so next week we already talked about it. We are going to be in Evansville for the Evansville game against Belmont. That is a 2 p.m. game. Evansville are 3.5-point dogs. So hoping that the energy that the state of basketball brings to the Ford Center helps flip that tide and helps them get that win.
That would be so sick to see them win against Belmont.
Yeah, it would. And then Southern Indiana is at 4:30 against Western Illinois. They are 4.5-point favorites. So that'll be nice if they're able to live up to that while we're there. It works out great that we're going to be in Evansville because we should be able to watch both of these games in their entirety because of how close they are. We might miss a little bit of the second half depending on how things are going
for tip.
Just to try to make USI for tip. But really excited to be down there. Really excited to see both these teams play in person.
I want to find the USI bar and the UE bar. Sample both. And report on the vibes.
Okay, we'll have most of Saturday evening, so we will have time to explore.
Yeah, we'll have
that out.
6:30, would be a reasonable drive home.
Yeah,
but we'll stay.
Yeah,
probably safer to stay than driving like 9 hours in one day.
Probably.
And I would like to not just get there and then leave. I'd like to experience Evansville.
Yeah. Plan is still tentative, but we will for sure be at both of those games. What are the games this week, Adam? Do you have your eye on?
Before that, if you have made it this far and you know anything about Evansville, you're a fan of Evansville or Southern Indiana, and you have any restaurant recommendations, let us know in the comments or on Twitter. We'll probably put something out on Twitter just to see where we should go eat. But the games that I'm looking forward to, I think we have a lot of vital games for our teams this week. I think you're looking at home for Notre Dame against Boston College. The 13-point favorites, they should win. Boston College is always terrible in the ACC. They should win this game. They need to win this game. They need to get back on track at home. Indiana needs a get-right game. They beat USC. USC beat Illinois. Who knows what in the world's going to happen there? They're 5.5 point underdogs at home against Illinois. They play better at home. So this is like one that like you really, really want to have.
Yep.
And then I think the single most important game this week for any of our teams is probably Butler at home versus Seton Hall, where they're 11.5-point favorites. That's on Wednesday.
Yep.
They need to win that game.
Yeah.
They need to win that game.
Talked about it a little bit. Seton Hall just lost to Providence by less than 10. Providence just beat Butler by quite a bit. So, like, still surprising to see it 11.5. For me, at least, still surprising to see the spread at 11.5.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a must-win game for Butler. So I'm definitely gonna be all eyes on that.
Can't get to double digits in the losing streak, man.
Yeah, you absolutely can't do that. Another game that will be interesting is IU Indy against Cleveland State. We already talked about it. There's impact for Purdue Fort Wayne there, but also IU Indy is 2.5-point dogs. That is a home game. So if they're able to pull that off against Cleveland State, it not only helps our Adam and I's narrative on IU Indy, but also going to help Purdue Fort Wayne out.
Yep.
So that's a double positive outcome if IU Indy pulls that off on Sunday the 19th.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of games that are going to not tell us a lot about these teams, but like we're hitting a crossroads where you're getting to the point of no return on some things, and you got to stop the bleeding somewhere or make a statement somewhere. So
there's games in Indiana every day this week.
Yeah.
So check that out. They're all at pretty reasonable times. A lot of 7 p.m. games. There's a random midnight game because Purdue's at Washington. But
it's insane, dude. No offense. Okay, if it was Oregon, I might stay up.
I'm not watching that game.
No.
It's Washington. Washington is playing probably the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life.
All right. And with that, Washington playing the worst basketball that Jaren's ever seen in his life, let's check in on the other 49 states, because Washington is one of the other 49 states. On Monday, Ohio State won at home against Minnesota because Minnesota fumbled it. They had it. They lost to Ohio State won in double overtime, 89-88. Ohio State was at the line, or Minnesota was at the line. They missed both free throws. You assume they're going to make one of them. They're going to foul up 3 because there were like 5 seconds left. Dude, just Mike Mitchell missed both free throws. They fouled up 2. Mobley, of course, hit them both, sent them to double overtime, and then they won. So that's embarrassing. It went from like the best win of Ben Johnson's coaching career to just like the most embarrassing fumble dub that he's had.
Yeah. Tuesday, number 8 Florida beat number 1 Tennessee. They stomped number 1 Tennessee, 73-43. That was in Gainesville. According to Greg Harvey on Twitter, we know Twitter statisticians are experts in a lot of things, but Florida is now the only team to have a 30-point win over the AP number 1 team in basketball and in football. Football was 52-20 over Florida State in the 1997 Sugar Bowl. And Georgia beat number 6 Kentucky 82-69. This is the first time they've beat a top 10 team in 5 years. The last one was number 9 Memphis on January 4th, 2020.
Would that have been Anthony Edwards, or would that have been like before Anthony Edwards?
I think that would have been
Anthony.
That might have been Anthony Edwards.
Let me see. Anthony Edwards, 2020 NBA draft.
Yeah.
So you have the number 1 pick. You're on a dog water team, but you pulled one off.
Tom Crean just wins games.
Not a lot at Georgia, admittedly. Not a lot at Georgia.
Hey, he had this one.
That's true. Wednesday, Villanova beat UConn by 2, 68-66. Caravan had like not even a last second shot, like fewer than 5 seconds left. Had a shot at the rim, missed it, got fouled, and then went to the free throw line and missed 2 free throws in a row for the first time in his college career. Feels bad. Could have sent it to overtime. Did not. They lose that game. And then UMass beat Dayton. Dayton started out this season really hot. They had a pretty decent showing in their MTE down in Maui. They lose to UMass 76-72. So the A10 might be a one-bid league somehow. Never thought that was going to happen this year.
Yeah. Thursday, Elon beat William and Mary 78-65. Right. That was Adam's Guess the Game of the Week last week. Utah Valley, not to be mistaken with Utah Valley State. Utah Valley beat Grand Canyon 72-64. That was my Guess the Game of the Week. And then number 15 Oregon beat Ohio State at Ohio State 73-71. And Ohio State was favored by like 2.5 in that game. So
they avoided a completely rough week by winning one of them.
Yeah.
Friday, Maryland beat UCLA 79-61 in College Park. So after they lost to Michigan, I think
it was.
Mick Cronin was like going off on his players, talking about like how they're soft. He's the only one like getting them motivated. Like he has to do all the work to get them motivated, and just like no one wants to play hard and anything. And like, just called out his players. And like we saw Rick Pitino do that last year with his players, and like just literally call them out by name and say like who's playing like crap. And so it can go one of two ways.
Shrews did it last year in the locker room after the Citadel. Yeah, and they responded.
Yeah. So like, it can go one of two ways. It can go really well, or they can respond, or like you can have what happened to them. Like they're playing UCLA or they're playing Maryland, and it's near the end, like 5-6 minutes left, and he is going ballistic on the sideline. He gets teed up, they eject him, and afterwards he's like, I wanted to get thrown out because this game was already over. They were down like 6 or 8. It wasn't over. Like it, whatever. But like, it is one way to like get your team fired up. I give him kudos for like trying. He's trying. Not working, but he's trying.
And Saturday, number 1, Tennessee. Well,
number 1
at the time.
Yes.
Tennessee won at Texas 74-70. Rick Barnes getting a win at his own stomping grounds. So that's pretty lit, especially after, being decimated earlier in this week for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Number 2, Auburn won at South Carolina 63-60. Janai Broome got hurt, and it seems like he's actually going to miss some serious time. So that, kind of goes back to what we're talking about with Cooper Flagg and Broome as the Player of the Year candidates. But definitely, Auburn needs to figure out a way to play without him because he is that good. Number 3, Iowa State won in a matchup of defensive forces at Texas Tech, 85-84 in overtime. A lot of points for two heavily defensive teams. 14, Mississippi State beat number 6, Kentucky. Tough week for the Wildcats. 95-90. This is a team that Butler once upon a time beat by 10. So, funny.
People forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes me.
Yeah. USC beat 13 Illinois by 10, 82-72.
What does that mean?
Indiana beats USC. I don't know what's going to happen.
We'll find out what it means if the transitive rule is better than the direct rule.
Yeah. And then 25, Utah State beat Boise State 81-79. Utah State got fouled down 2 in the last second and made 3. On a last second, made 3 and hit the free throw. So a 4-point play to win the game.
Brutal way to lose for Boise State, man.
Yeah.
Sunday, today, if you're watching live, Michigan State beat Northwestern 78-68. I mean, they look good, like an Izzo team. They've got a good point guard who can play the way Izzo wants, but this team is looking like the Hoosiers from behind the three-point line. They look broke, dude. They're 328th in three-point rate and 335th in three-point percentage. So they don't take them because they don't make them.
Hey, that's gotta know what you're good at.
There's two things. Like Evansville doesn't make them, but they take them. Michigan State doesn't make them, doesn't take them. And then an interesting one, because friend of the show was calling this one. 15 Oregon beats Penn State 82-81, and you were texting with Connor because he was calling this game.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what the situation at the end of this game was.
Yeah. So first off, Ace Baldwin did not play. Second off, this was Penn State's first home arena loss of the season. They
First
were
loss in College
9-0.
Park.
First loss in College Park. But so Oregon, they led the game about midway through the second half. Led until about midway through the second half. Penn State started.
Happy Valley. I apologize. I said College Park earlier, and that's why it was in my head. Happy Valley. My bad.
So Oregon led until about midway through the second half. Penn State then started pulling away. Within like a minute left, Oregon rallied back. They went up. They were up 1. They're up 4 with 10 seconds left, whatever. Penn State hits a 3. Oregon up 1. Penn State calls a timeout as soon as they made a basket, drew up the final play, whatever. Oregon is now inbounding, running the baseline. Couldn't find anyone open. Called a timeout. Oregon's last timeout. Coming back, Adam thought, Connor Onion, friend of the show, calling the game.
Our Lord and Savior thought. I mean,
yeah. Everyone in their right mind thought that after that second timeout, the one that was called by Oregon, the inbound pass would have to be stationary. You get that 3-foot wiggle room, but primarily stationary. You don't get the baseline. You can't run. Tracy for Oregon moved, took a couple steps, didn't go far, but like definitely went outside that 3-foot.
He moved.
That 3-foot window that you get. That wasn't called. They didn't blow a whistle. Nothing happened. Got the ball in. Penn State fouled. It looked like, but then try to stop the clock, whatever. That didn't get called. Clock runs out. Oregon won. Apparently, on the call, Connor even said it. They were calling out. They were pointing out the fact that Tracy was moving. They're like, he can't do that. Why? What's going on? Why is there no whistle? Like this isn't allowed.
Yeah.
And then both coaches, I think Mike Rhodes talked to the refs and asked, and like one ref said you couldn't move, another ref said you could move. They explained it to the commentators after the game. Everyone seemed to like, okay, the consensus was that it was fine. Everything,
which is never how I've ever thought of that rule. Ever. I've never seen it like that.
And the more I talked to Connor for about it, we talked about an hour. We were texting back and forth, like talking about it because he was bummed. He's like, I got the call wrong. Like, you didn't get the call wrong. The rules are wrong. Like,
the rules are wrong. Connor, you're right.
There is no like.
Eric Mulder has never fouled. Connor Onion has never gotten a call wrong. I mean, these are the facts of life.
So we don't really know why it was called, what's going on, what the actual rule is. Is there like is like the weird like calling 2 timeouts? Like, does it break the degree of separation of like when you're allowed to move, when you're not? No one really knows. Apparently, everything that we thought our entire lives is now false. This might be a Mandela effect thing that we're coming to figure out. But Connor did say he was going to call Terry Weimer, who I believe is the head of officiating for the Big Ten, tomorrow. So I should get an update tomorrow or in the next couple of days from Connor.
Reminds me of what's the tagline for Whose Line? The rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
Right. So don't really know what happened, but Oregon won. Penn State lost is what the record books show. Yeah. So what do we got next week? Another 49.
Monday, our game of the day is Nicholls State at Incarnate Word. They are 1-point favorites. Incarnate Word is at 7:30 p.m. on Monday. Davion Bailey and Jalen Anderson, both Ball State Cardinal transfers, went to Incarnate Word. So some Southland content for you on your Monday night if you want to check up on some former cards.
Yep. Tuesday, we've got Mississippi State at Auburn. Auburn are 14.5-point favorites. That is 7 p.m. Auburn should be ranked number 1 when the polls come out tomorrow or Monday, depending on when you're listening, after Tennessee's embarrassing loss that we talked about. But it'll be interesting to see what they look like with Broom having that significant sprain. And then Mississippi State just beat number 6 Kentucky, so they're playing hot. Auburn's going in. I guess not going in, but because they're at home, but playing without the probably one of the best players in the country. So
top 2 for sure.
Yeah, will be interesting to see.
Interesting. I don't think the line's going to be 14.5 is what it is on Torvik is where we pull these from. The official line is not out right now. It will not be 14.5. I would assume. I don't know that it would have been 14.5 in the first place, but it would have been close, I guess. But it will not be 14.5 with Broom out for sure. Wednesday, our game of the day is Kansas at Iowa State. Iowa State's 5.5 point favorites. That's at 7 p.m. Iowa State's coming off that good win at Texas Tech and tied for first in conference, and Kansas is tied for second because they have one loss to, West Virginia.
Yep.
They got smacked by West Virginia without their best players.
Thursday, we've got Marshall at James Madison. James Madison are 5.5 point favorites. That at 7 p.m. Just 2 middle of the pack Sunbelt teams going at it on a Thursday. They're 2 of the higher rated in the conference, though. So middle of the pack record wise, but 2 of their better teams
on paper.
This all these Sunbelt games have impact on the MAC Sunbelt Challenge.
This is true.
So we will
could see one of these teams playing Ball State.
Yeah, in a couple weeks.
Friday, our game. Something's got to give. Either, I guess doesn't have to because they're not playing each other. And I hope we don't get to the point where Butler is playing DePaul for one of them to get their first Big East win. That could be the week after this. But Friday, our game is DePaul at Georgetown. Georgetown's 8.5 point favorites. That's Friday at 8 p.m. Can DePaul win a Big East game before Butler? Is literally why I wanted to talk about this game.
Makes sense.
I hope not. And I hope that they win this game and still don't get a Big East win before Butler.
Because Butler played Seton Hall before.
Yes.
Yeah. Saturday, we've got Alabama, who are 0.5 point favorites at Kentucky. That is a noon tip. Should be a fun game. We have spoken heavily. We are big fans of Mark Pope.
Mm-hmm.
We think what he's doing is great for the Wildcats. So kind of weird thing to say considering
we're an Indiana podcast.
We're an Indiana podcast, but that's
10
just
of
the way
our,
it happens.
Well, 9 of our 11 schools don't have something directly against them. Probably Evansville's like, we're better than you.
Yeah.
Look at the record.
Yeah, and Indiana and Kentucky just hate each other.
Yeah. But they need this one. I mean, for sure after this week. Sunday, Illinois at Michigan State at noon. The Michigan State's 1 point favorites. They, both of these teams need this win because they're both at the top of the Big Ten. Illinois just took a loss to USC that they probably shouldn't have taken. So, league implications impacting Indiana, but mostly Purdue at this point.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So our least favorite part of the show.
I love this part. Don't put words in my mouth. I love this part. I don't care if I get it wrong every time. I love it.
I do love.
You're up first this week. I will say you are up first.
Recap. We are both 3-6.
Something's got to give. Actually, no, it doesn't. We can both go 4-6 or 3-7.
Yeah. All right. I've got for you a dirty encounter in the barn.
Dirty encounter in the barn. Okay. The barn, Minnesota, plays in the barn. So that's what I'm going to go with. The barn. Dirty encounter. There are so many Big Ten teams.
18 if you keep a track at home.
If you are keeping track at home. So who would be dirty? Nebraska's corny. The LA teams are Washington's terrible, so they're like dirty in that way. they're a dirty encounter in the barn. I don't know that Michigan or Michigan State makes sense. Illini, Northwestern, Penn State, man, the 11th Big Ten team. Dirty. Why dirty though? That's the thing I'm hung up on. Dude. Tough. This is tough. What animal would be dirty? Arkansas. The Hogs. That would be
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah.
But where would Arkansas be playing? I should know this. Arkansas. Okay. I'm formulating it. This is probably the longest one we've ever had. This is gonna be so fun for you to edit. Barn. The barn. What would be in a barn? Just like this is when I just blank on. Wait. I'm gonna go with Arkansas, Texas.
Ooh. Arkansas because of the Hogs.
Yeah.
Texas because of the Longhorns.
Uh-huh.
Longhorns live in barns.
In the barns. Uh-huh.
It is not.
Ah.
It is Michigan at Minnesota.
But why are they dirty?
Dusty May.
I guess. Come on.
Dust is dirt. I wanted to say like spring cleaning the dust out of the barn, but I was like, that just doesn't make sense. Because May, spring, dust,
I get
dusty.
you.
But Michigan at Minnesota, 7 p.m. Thursday, January 16th.
Now I'm curious as to if that game is happening.
Arkansas, Texas?
Yeah. Let me pull it up. See if I can find literally just one of them. They should be. Wait, I literally just found it and then pulled Arkansas. Got it. Arkansas. No, LSU, Missouri. They don't play. They don't play Texas until February. Dang. I don't think I would have gotten the dirty part. I was thinking of a team, someone that you would have hated. All right, that's good. So I'm 3-7. Let me update my record. All right, mine. You ready?
No. Yes.
I cooked here. No. I just like, this is just a fun sentence to say. All right, my guess the game, Jaren. If you get this, you have a better record than I do. If you don't, we are once again tied. My guess the game is Gabriela Montez's boyfriend versus the USA Mobile.
What? So Troy Burton went to Berkeley.
Troy Burton, is that Marcus's brother?
Troy Bolton.
Okay. Save you. The High School Musical fans.
Well, I had the Burt from Berkeley.
Yeah.
And that was in my head. So Berkeley. So Cal. USA Mobile.
That's one of the ones I'm most proud of. Not that you will necessarily get it, but like when it's revealed, it'll be fun.
I don't even know what conference they're in anymore.
Cal?
Yeah.
Cal's in the ACC.
That's right.
Yeah, man, they took those nerdy schools out west.
Yeah. USA Mobile. Who are the ACC teams? I'm like
again. This is me with trying to think of Big Ten teams, and then I was like pivoted halfway through and was thinking of big SEC teams. I was like,
so not Duke, not North Carolina, not Louisville, not Notre Dame.
Is Notre Dame America's football team this week? This upcoming week?
Probably.
This is like getting like just one of those hate. This would be like, you know what? This is gonna expose me. I don't even know if they could play in the Super Bowl, but this would be like getting like the Chiefs versus the Patriots.
I'm not an NFL guy.
Me neither, dude.
They're
all made up anyway.
I think they're in the same league.
Okay.
The USA Mobile.
Is
that a vehicle?
No.
Is it?
No, it's not. It's not vehicle related.
I'm just gonna say Cal Stanford. I don't know.
Cal Stanford. Good guess.
I don't know.
You were close. So Gabriela Montez's boyfriend versus the USA Mobile is Troy at South Alabama.
Because they're in Mobile.
They're in Mobile, and they're the University of South Alabama. USA Mobile. That game is Saturday, January 18th at 4 p.m. I thought you would get Troy, and then as soon as you said like he went to, I was like, oh, he's cooked.
Because we had this, we had these conversations last year.
Yep.
About
we talked about like who would he have been playing.
Yeah. Gosh, dang
big Troy
it.
Bolton fans here.
Okay, so we're both 3-7.
Okay, odds one of us gets to 5 this season. 50-50?
I think it's
50-50.
Well, yeah, it's either we do or we don't. So
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. He knows.
Every stat is always 50-50 no matter what.
Yeah, dude.
No matter the probability, you either do it or you don't.
What do you mean no matter the probability? It's 50-50. I'm the probability.
Well, okay.
No matter what those stats nerds tell you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else this week?
Hopefully we'll see you in Evansville. That's it. I mean, got some good games. Make or break for some of our teams. Not make or break. I mean, obviously, there's still all of February and March, but
a lot riding on this week
getting
for
tight.
a lot of our teams.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the clock is showing quadruple zeros, so it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball podcast. We will see you Saturday, hopefully. If not, we will see you next week. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just basketball.